one candle for those who are suffering the pain we learned so long ago. Light one candle for all we believe in, that anger won't tear us apart. And light one candle to bring us together with peace as the song in our heart. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears. What is the memory that's valued so highly? We keep it alive in that flame. What's the commitment to those who have died when we cry out they've not died in vain? Have we come this far, always believing that justice would somehow prevail? This is the burden, and this is the promise, and this is why we will not fail. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears.
So my name is Tim Atkins. I serve as your Director of Lifespan Religious Exploration, and my pronouns are he, him. So when I was asked to reflect on holiday decorations, at first I drew a blank. Honestly, for me, I often worry more about the holiday decorations at the church I serve than my own actual decorations. I then tried to think back to the ones I had growing up. And that's easier said than done for me. And the main memories I have are all around Christmas ornaments. Honestly, one way many families keep their history is not through a family tree, it's through the ornaments on their Christmas tree. Each ornament has a particular memory, each ornament has a story that goes along with it, or reminds you of a particular Christmas you first got that ornament. Perhaps some handmade ornaments from elementary schools adorn the tree. Maybe it's an ornament from a family vacation or a special ornament passed down in the family. Well, you get the idea. So in my family, the most special ornaments were the Disney ornaments. So as a kid, I didn't quite understand the mechanics of it, and the adult Tim has done zero research, but my parents had to have been part of some sort of mail-based subscription service. And every year, a new, beautifully painted, circular ceramic Disney ornament arrived with a scene from one of their animated movies. And it always had the year painted on them as well. Each year came in its own special box, and we were sure to return each to its proper box year after year. Every year, these would be lovingly and carefully placed on the tree, and I don't think we ever broke a single one, and frankly, that's saying something in my family. So to give you a sense of the time frame, we're largely talking about the 80s here. I think the ornament tradition started with the birth of my older sister, so we would have started receiving the ornaments in 1978. Every year when the ornament came in the mail, we were excited to see what movie it would come from. Whenever a Disney movie came out, we would always go see it in the theater because we loved animation in our household. It was something that brought all members of our household together. So one of the reasons I mentioned earlier why it's hard for me to remember my family winter holiday traditions is that when I was 10 in 1993, my dad died quite suddenly from a pulmonary embolism. He died in February of that year. And slowly but surely during the course of the year, the holiday season marched toward us with a sense of dread. Because we were living in a new state. We weren't close to family. We were hardly in the mood for a grand holiday celebration. So my mom made a decision. As a kid, I was excited about it. And as an adult, and now as a religious educator, I can see with a sense of perspective at what a great and smart decision it truly was. She decided that year we would actually go to Disney World for Christmas. So when winter break came, we headed down to Orlando and spent Christmas with Mickey Mouse. It gave us something to be excited about during a gloomy season, sure. But it gave us a new tradition, a trip to Disney, based off a family tradition, our Disney ornaments. And most importantly, it brought back joy to an otherwise gloomy Christmas. And in the end, the season is all about joy. So a very Merry Disney Christmas to you all. I'd like to invite Diana up to introduce our special musical interlude today. Diana?
Thank you. Yeah, this is our first attempt at using a virtual choir kit. And I want to thank Nathan Boone, our Congregational Life Coordinator, for doing the tech work on this and pulling it all together. The brave members of our virtual choir are Lana Henson, Chris Gonzalez, Marcia Woodward, April Starr, Margaret Flansburgh, Barbara Gallivan, and Luann Faulkner Schneider.
Deck the halls with boughs of holly, la 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 la. 'Tis the season to be jolly, la 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 la. Don we now our gay apparel, la 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 la. Troll the ancient Yuletide carol, la 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 la. Here we come caroling on the leaves so green. Here we come wandering so fair to be seen. Love and joy come to you, and to you my tidings too. And we wish you a send you a happy new year. And we wish you a happy new year. Dashing through the snow in one horse open sleigh, o'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. Ha ha ha! Bells on bobtails ring, making spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight! Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh! Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh! Hey!
And I forgot to include Diane Broyles, you also saw her there singing. So thanks to all of you. And we have another story from Carmen McBride.
During our childhood years, my sister Pam, brother John, and I would be surprised a few weeks before Christmas with the arrival of a special parcel from our grandparents in Germany. How our eyes would sparkle with excitement and anticipation, soon to be dashed after our parents hid the package filled with gifts and homemade treats by our grandmother. As with all children, it was of course our job to discover where these treasures were hidden. I can only recall finding them, or at least being able to reach them, one or two times. We carefully looked and felt for any torn corners or shapes to see if we could figure out what was inside the beautifully wrapped packages. Not too much though, because we didn't want to leave any clues for our parents that we had been prying where we weren't supposed to. Next, we searched for the edible treats or Gutzle from our grandmother. Homemade Stollen, a wonderful sweet bread that's covered with powdered sugar, cookies, and always a package or two of chocolates, and Lebkuchen, a soft gingerbready sweet. When I look back, I think of all of her grandchildren, 13 of us, who loved to be in the kitchen, filled with warmth and laughter with our Oma when she was cooking or baking. Everything she made was delicious and made with love. Oma passed on her skills to her daughters, all excellent cooks and bakers. Mom was no exception. During the holidays, we helped make the goodies. Butter was always involved, and so was sugar. We made sugar cookies using our favorite cookie cutters, piped spritz cookies, shaped vanilla kipfer, rolled rum balls in sugar, and dusted stollen with powdered sugar, happily sampling along the way. One of our most beloved traditions was hunting for a Christmas tree. Much like Kathy Webster mentioned last week, this was always a family affair. A week or two before Christmas, we would all pile in the car and head to our favorite tree lot next to Coit's Drive-In on North Penn. We would search and search until finding just the right tree, twirling each prospect around for the perfect shape and fullness, testing the branches for needle softness and freshness. Once found, the attendant would wrap the tree and help us tie it to the roof of the car. Home we'd go, with Mom or Dad making the final cut on the trunk before placing it in a bucket of water. The next day, in came the tree. Once in the stand, we would stand back and check it with a critical eye for straightness and best angle, then decorate together with Christmas songs playing, lights, ornaments, tinsel, making comments on many of the ornaments, how we came to have them, shiny bright, German, homemade, gifts. This tradition continued with my children, Chelsea and Connell, but with 2 trees and an ornament for each every year for their own collections. Then stockings would be hung, each one made by Pam and me through the years, first starting with our parents and continuing with each new addition. Christmas Eve finally came, our beloved annual service, ending with candles and silent night sung in the courtyard. Then home for festivities, as is German tradition. Everyone had a spot. Dad in his easy chair, a contemporary black leather antique with tweed cushions, Mom to his right on the sofa, and the rest of us scattered on sofa, floor, ledge, or steps. In the beginning, we would share passing out the gifts, but over the years, it was usually our brother, John, later assisted by little helpers. Presents were opened, music was played, and all the Christmas goodies came out. We basked in being together. Each of us is filled with the memories of our lives, drifting softly like powdered sugar, until we can remember them no longer. We pass down traditions, adding and revising them along the way. Treasure the moments, for they go by all too quickly. Promise of Christmas. Memories past, present, and yet to be created. Coit's is long gone, but thankfully, real trees and the aroma that come with them are still here. I better start looking. On with the search.
Thank you, Carmen. Well, in the video with Reverend Lubkin, you might have noticed some candles besides the ones in the menorah. Those were Advent candles from the Christian tradition. A candle is lit each Sunday of Advent to symbolize the different stages of waiting for the birth of Jesus. This is the 3rd week of Advent, so there would be 3 candles lit this morning. The candles may be different colors in different traditions, but in most cases, they will be purple or violet and pink and white. The first candle lit on the first Sunday is purple, and it represents hope. The second candle is also purple, and it represents peace. And the pink candle, the one that is traditionally lit on this 3rd Sunday of Advent, represents joy. During this season of lights in the darkness, let's light candles of hope, peace, and joy. We begin with hope. For a long time now, many of us have felt hopeless. For some of us, the hopelessness comes and goes. Some days are worse than others. but for others, it's a perpetual state of being. We begin by remembering those who struggle with depression, addiction, and other mental illness, especially at this time of year. We pray that our elected officials and leaders may be moved to provide the care and the services that are desperately needed by so many people, and that they may learn to treat mental illness as the illness that it is, and not a crime deserving of punishment or death. In this time of light and the darkness, many of us are hopeful for what a new year may bring: a functioning government, a healthier democracy, an effective vaccine, and the possibility of being together in person once again. In the chat, as I light a candle for hope, or on Facebook in the comments, I invite you to write the things for which you are hopeful. We hope for the country to be united. We hope that we will become sane as a country once again. We hope that people will wear a mask and that they will social distance. We hope for a smooth transition of power. We hope that there will be less chaos next year. We hope that there will be an end to this pandemic and people will be able to go places again. We are hoping for an effective vaccine. May it be so. The second Advent candle is for peace. And today we pray for peace for all of those, nearly 300,000 now in this country alone, who have died from COVID-19. May they rest in peace. And we remember all of those who have died this year because of hate and violence. We especially remember today Mr. Benny Edwards, another Black man who also happened to be homeless and suffering from mental illness, who was killed by police here in Oklahoma City just this past week. And we remember our loved ones who have died, either recently or long ago, who we miss so much, for whom our hearts ache, especially at this time of year. May they all rest in peace. And as I light the peace candle, I invite you to write into the chat or into the comments on Facebook the names of those on whom we wish peace today. We remember Benny Edwards, Russell Thomas Webster, Charlie Pride. Remember David, Charles, Mary, Barbara, Katie, Stavian. Remember Catherine, Trish, Pat, Lynn Moses, all the victims of violence and hate throughout our country's history, Chelsea, Pat Corley. For these and all the others, we carry still in our hearts peace, peace. And finally, the third candle of Advent is the candle of joy. And as we watch the snow fall, May we remember that there is so much to be grateful for, so many reasons for joy. And I invite you to write those joys into the chat now as I light the candle. We are so joyful that Lana Henson is still cancer-free, joyful for family, joyful for being near family again, this church community, for Rowan, who will be 2 years old in January, for being with our pets and our family, for mother's health, for snow, for Christmas lights, the snow that damages, that covers some of the damage from the storm. We are so joyful and grateful for a warm home, warm hearts, for partners, for being almost finished with this semester and with the capstone paper, for a safe place to live, for plants, for this and for so much more that we carry in our hearts with great gratitude and joy. We say thank you. And now, watching the flickering candles, please join me in a moment of silence. Hope, peace, joy. May it be so. And Jim Gordon has a story he'd like to share with us.
Christmas Eve, 1914. My father is 11 months old. World War I is just 5 months along. Outside Paris, German and Allied troops in trenches face each other across snowy fields cluttered with bodies from recent fighting. Then each side hears the other, singing familiar carols in an unfamiliar language. They join in their own tongue. Soon a few walk out from each side, unarmed, into the open field to greet each other, mostly without a common language, but with a common humanity. More step out onto the field. The fallen from recent skirmishes are removed. Simple gifts are exchanged. Some say a soccer game broke out, but apocryphal accounts differ as to the details of the impromptu gatherings. Fighting resumes the next day, and no record is made of who fires the day's first shot. The war continues for 4 more years. And then from Haskell County, Kansas, USA, the great influenza spreads across the globe. Sound familiar? Christmas time 2020. The USA is having trouble making the transition from one administration to the next. Both camps sense that their idea of democracy is threatened by disingenuous arguments from their opponents. Threats of escalation and violence are abundant, and most of the population is sensing blatant injustice, although polarized as to the correct description of the circumstances. Better to talk of compromise, though, of truce, of even of resolution, instead of facing off against each other, looking for strategic and tactical advantages. It is easier to cross a river when it's low. It's easier to wade or walk through the shallows than to attempt to travel in a flood. We need to expand the scope and numbers and the ways and the places where we can work together. Let us find the words with which to describe who we are and what we need from and what we can offer to each other. May the troops of yesterday and today, may they back down. May the peacekeepers walk freely, suggesting dialogue, compromise, novel solutions, and patience of the flawed persons speaking from both sides. This year, may Christmas pass slowly, gently, with optimism, and with prayers for our world. While the water and the snow is low enough to get within range of each other's softest voices, Let's begin by searching for common ground. Such grounds are generally higher, but are worth the climb. Even if we can't stay, the trip's worth the view.
Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare him room, and heaven and nature sing, and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Son, earth, and mercy mild, God and sinners reconciled. Joyful you nations rise, join the triumph of the skies. With angelic hosts proclaim, Christ is born in Bethlehem. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright. Round yon Virgin Mother and Child, holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace.
And we have another story from Susan Bishop.
First of all, I want to thank Kathy Webster for her wonderful reflection last week. It brought back memories of my childhood when we would search for a Christmas tree. Like you, Kathy, my mother had the final say. When we lived on the acreage in Green, Rhode Island, we also purchased living root ball trees. Now would be the time when Dad would bring it home from the local tree farm. He would have already dug the hole in September for planting it after the new year. When Anne Murray and I traveled to Rhode Island, I was heartened to see how tall the trees had grown. They were a magnificent mixture of noble fir, Scotch pine, and Fraser fir. My family and I would spend the 17th of December, my brother's birthday, decorating the tree. Dad was charged with stringing lights. While Mom supervised, we hung ornaments, popcorn and cranberry garlands, and tinsel. Most of our ornaments were a variety of colored balls in various sizes. While the tree was always pretty, it reminded me of department store trees where everything was just so. My first Christmas with Barbara, my late wife, was more of a lesson on how to decorate a tree correctly. All I had were a variety of red, blue, silver, green, and gold balls, mostly the same size on my tree. When Barbara saw it, she was horrified. Where are your special ornaments? I had to admit I had none. She invited me to help her decorate her tree. When we opened the boxes, and there were several of them, what struck me first was how carefully every ornament was wrapped in tissue paper or paper towel, and between every layer was bubble wrap. Barbara was very serious about her ornaments. Mine were just those shiny colored balls that came in cardboard boxes with dividers. I was amazed. No two ornaments were alike. There were cloth ornaments, some made from wood or metal, glass ornaments, ornaments purchased on trips, and a variety of homemade. By the time we finished, it was the most beautiful tree I'd ever seen. Whenever we traveled on vacation after that, we always found an ornament for our tree. Sometimes they really were ornaments. Sometimes they were mementos from weekend getaways, like the leprechaun keychain from a gambling weekend in Mississippi. Each one was very special because memories were attached. I ended up giving away my boxes of colored balls, save one. That was my tribute to the trees of my youth. Decorating our house was something that took Barbara and I almost a week to complete. Because we had so many baubles for the tree, we ended up having 3 trees at our last Christmas together. Each had a theme: Lodge, Indigenous, Hallmark, and Potpourri. I hung the blue ball on that tree. The tree dedicated to all the Hallmark ornaments included Star Trek. I have Klingon spacecraft, Federation starships, and even Spock wishing happy holidays from the shuttlecraft Galileo. The best part was once the trees were decorated, we'd turn off all the house lights. Then we'd flip the switches. The effect was magical. I referenced earlier that each ornament had a memory attached. Barbara found a Christmas moose for me in New Hampshire one summer. Somehow she spirited out of the store without my knowledge, something I was famous for doing to her. Opening that gift Christmas morning was something I'll always cherish because she knew of my love of moose, and this particular one was very special. Until I met Barbara, I never knew how distinct ornaments could be as they mark events in a relationship. If you haven't decorated your tree yet, think about sharing the memories that connect you to your ornaments as you hang each one. Barbara and I used to do that when we decorated our tree. We'd reminisce about this or that camping trip or a vacation somewhere. This was our version of hanging the greens, and I wish each of you a wonderful holiday season.
Thank you, Susan. And thank you before to Jim also. I'm just so appreciative of these wonderful stories. We have one more from Gordon Green. Gordon?
I've never been comfortable, as some of you know, with the phrase the hanging of the greens. That always makes me feel like I'm the guest of honor at a lynching. This is called 3 Days Till Christmas. I wrote this in 1992, so the references will be a little older. The big day is almost here. The ubiquitous signs are unmistakable. Full parking lots at the mall, homes decorated with blinking lights, mailboxes jammed with colorful cards and extra bills, mischievous children trying to pass for angels, radio stations cramming additional commercials between seasonal songs, and a film called It's a Wonderful Life is playing on every television station in the Western world. If you think I'm being cynical, you're wrong. Some say Christmas is just for kids. Humbug. I'm over 50, and I love Christmas with the passion of a 5-year-old. I love the crowds, the color, the lights, the music, and the merriment. I even love It's a Wonderful Life, though I'm partial to A Christmas Carol. And over the years, I've seen the Dickens classic no less than 30 times. That's double that number by now. So don't tell me Christmas is just for kids. Still, I think it's safe to predict that Christmas fever will increase in all homes with children now that school is out for the holidays. In our house, I note with interest that presents under the tree have found their way into new arrangements every night. So far, most seem to have withstood the shake, rattle, and roll tests. Those which make intriguing noises tend to get the most attention. Lightweight boxes that make no noise are quickly written off as containing clothes and are relegated to the bottom of the pile. It was that way when I was a kid, too. Christmas is special at any age, but I'll admit there's something extra special about one's early Christmases. I remember how my mother used to decorate the house with fragrant greenery, frosted mirrors, and trays of candy and goodies. Most especially, Mom liked to deck the halls with candles. Sometimes I suspected she might have been a closet Catholic instead of the Protestant she claimed to be. I imagine many of us remember our childhood Christmases by the principal present we received in a given year. An electric train had topped my wish list for years, but my parents kept thinking I was too young. And then one year, I got one. The diesel engine had a headlight that worked, and a tiny man in a boxcar unloaded milk cans onto a platform when the train stopped. A wonderful gift. It was hours, though, before I was able to seize control from my dad and big brother. They insisted they had to make sure it was working properly. Probably the best Christmas present of my youth was a toolbox. That too had been on my wish list for several years. I was still young enough to have been satisfied with one of those inexpensive toy department models, but I received a large metal box containing a handsome assortment of real tools, ones that my father had picked out for me. Christmas, of course, is infinitely more than giving and receiving presents. Christmas is music and magic, tradition and togetherness, the smells of evergreens and tangerines, and the exuberant goodwill we share in holiday abundance. You don't have to be a kid to love Christmas. You don't even have to be a Christian, because the true spirit of Christmas transcends the doctrines and dogmas, the creeds and convictions of any one religion. It's as boundless as love itself and as ageless as the stars. Christmas is for everyone. May the spirit of Christmas shine brightly on you and yours. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Gordon. Our closing music is sung by Becky Talent with Warren Palmer on the piano. It's Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. And as we listen to the music, we'll see photos that members of our congregation sent in of their decorations in their homes this year. See if you can guess whose is who by the names on the stockings. And at the end, you'll also see some photos that we took of our church this time last year with the holiday decorations in place.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be light. From now on, our troubles will be out of sight. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Make the Yuletide gay. From now on, our troubles will be miles away. Here we are as in olden days, happy golden days of yore. Faithful friends who are dear to us will be near to us once more. Someday soon we all will be together if the dates allow. Until then we'll have to muddle through somehow. if the dates allow. Until then, we'll have to muddle through somehow. So have yourself a merry little Christmas now.
And Susan, would you extinguish our chalice for us?
It's extinguished.
Okay. We extinguish our chalice flame, but not the light of love and community, which continues to burn in our hearts. Until we are together again, in person or virtually, I wish that you be well, be safe, and I offer you sincere wishes for hope, peace, and joy. We'll have a postlude. We'll listen to Wendy Pitt performing on her flute, "O Come All Ye Faithful." And right after the service is over, we invite you to join us for virtual coffee hour. As you might have seen on Facebook or in the newsletter, it will be a special kind of coffee hour. We're hoping to make it into almost a party. So we'll continue our decoration themes. Please bring with you scissors, paper to make those fun little chains that we can hang in our background, or snowflakes. If you are a knitter or a crocheter, bring the tools you need to do that. But coffee hour will be a decorating party. And for those of you who are newcomers who've been visiting and would like to learn more about this congregation or about Unitarian Universalism, please join us in our newcomers session that will be at the same time. And you can contact Nathan Boone, our Congregational Life Coordinator, or send us a personal message to get the Zoom link if you don't have that. Blessings, everyone.